What a big empty wall! This wall has been the backdrop of many of my videos now, and it is very empty, and I want to change that. Approximately a year ago, I decided that I was going to turn this into a gallery wall, but gallery walls can be quite expensive if you go out and buy like 20 pieces of art in just one sitting. So what I've been doing is collecting art for the past few months, and now I think I'm finally ready to put it up. I'm going to show you every piece of art that I got for my gallery wall, starting with the items that I have bought. So when I decided that I was gonna make a gallery wall, I immediately went to a craft fair in search for art, and I got two items. One of them is this print of an astronaut dog, extremely cute, needs a frame. The other thing that I got is also animal themed, and that is a tile. Two cats, yin and yang style. Again, super cute. This one was a bit pricier, but it is handmade. I didn't go out and buy a lot of art for my gallery wall, mainly because budget reasons, but also because I wanted it to be built over time with thrifted items, hand-me-downs, and even self-made art. So those are the only two things I purposefully bought for that gallery wall, and it was right at the beginning of the journey. More things that I bought. So when I went to London, I got 3 souvenirs, and I plan to display all of them in my gallery wall. The first one being this plate from Baker Street. So we went to 221B Baker Street. For those who don't know, that is the house where Sherlock Holmes was supposed to live. And now there is a Sherlock Holmes museum. At the Westminster Abbey, hard thing to say in a sentence, I got 2 things. One of them is this 500-piece jigsaw puzzle. It is not done because I've been waiting to make this video to start on it, and I also need a frame to hang this when it's done. The other thing that I got at the Westminster Abbey is this embroidery kit, a cross-stitch kit. It's supposed to be a needle case. I didn't make the back of the embroidery, I only did the front, and then I started the back and decided, nah, I want to frame this. It's not the prettiest pattern that I've ever seen, but I really like it. The bag, however, is a massive mess. So those are all the things that I bought with my own money. This one has a self-made aspect to it. Another self-made item that I did is this picture. It was a paint by numbers. I was gifted it for my birthday years ago when I finished it years ago. Might be included, might not be included in my gallery wall. This one has already appeared on my channel, specifically on the video about starting Project Pan. And it is a scratch painting. This is what it looks like before scratching, and I think it's already beautiful enough. And I'm not gonna waste my time and potentially ruin it by scratching it. So it's gonna go like this. So I found a lot of small frames in my parents' home, and this is one of them, and I think it could work really well with the scratch painting I just showed you. Another thing that I found around my parents' home is this picture over here. Now it is a good wishes card for a newborn baby. What newborn baby? Probably me, so it's a few days old already. And the other art that I found around my parents' home is this one over here. Let me get it out of the box. So I have no idea where this came from. I don't think my parents ever bought art like this, and they also did not hang it or get it out of the box. So maybe it was the picture that came with the frame, or maybe someone was gifted this and they didn't really like it, so they put it inside a closet. So I searched this picture on Google, and what I found is that it was made by Chris Achilleos in 1992, and it's part of a series. And this piece, it's called Dragon Queen. Makes sense. Okay, so let's now go with the bigger pieces of art. Starting with that one over there. That is the Sacré-Cœur in Paris. Excuse my French. And I think a family member bought it when they traveled to Paris, and then it was poorly folded and kept somewhere for years. So when I found it, I tried to straighten it, and then I framed it and hung it on a wall. And it stayed there for years, but now I've brought it here with me. Now, these 4 over here, they are hand-me-downs from my aunt. Taking a closer look, they are clearly hand-painted. So even though I'm not the biggest fan of that one over there, I'm gonna keep it as it is because it is hand-painted, and that is really cool. I really love that one over there. Finally, we have those two Monet prints. Someone had them in an attic for at least 15 years, and I don't know if you can notice, but the prints have warped because they have been exposed to moisture. And that one over there, the paint of the frame is chipping off. I will try to fix both things. So yeah, those are the bigger pieces of art. Am I going too fast? Probably yes.
Do you know that feeling when you are excited to start a project, but you cannot start that project because you have another 5 projects that you have to finish before you start another one? And then when you actually get to start the project, you are no longer excited because you're already thinking about another project. That is me right now.
Let's now get to the part that I've been procrastinating for the past few months, which is framing all the pieces that need a frame and cleaning all the pieces that did have a frame, but I still kept in storage for like 10 months. There were also a lot of things that needed a little bit of fixing around. We're starting with the scratch painting that, after all, I did end up not scratching because I couldn't be bothered. And this piece was a little bit bigger than the frame that I wanted to use, so I just had to trim it on the side and take off a big chunk at the bottom. And then I just had to put back the backboard, and that was it. Okay, next we have the piece that I embroidered. You will see me trying to frame 2 square things in this video, and let me tell you something. Finding squared frames with specific measurements in mind, that is gonna be a hard thing. Of course, I couldn't find the right frames at thrift stores. I honestly don't know many thrift stores where I live that sell frames. So I had to go to the store and buy new frames, and I ended up spending like 80 euros. As you can see, I did start doing the back. I only did like 2 rows, and then I decided that I was not gonna do it. So I had to seam rip the entire thing so it wouldn't show inside the window of the frame. To make sure that the embroidered piece would be right in the center of the window, I first used a little tape to secure it in place in the front, then I turned it around, and then I permanently secured it with more tape in the back. And then there was no need to keep the tape on the front, so I just removed it and framed it. Now, this frame was not designed to be hung on the wall, so I had to improvise a little bit, and I screwed one of these little hooks in the back, and I didn't know how to do it without a drill, so I just started turning the picture on the table on top of a microfiber cloth so the table wouldn't scratch the art, and then I continued screwing it in with my fingers. There was another piece of art that needed the same treatment. It was not designed to be hung on the wall, so I just removed that little flap that you use to put it on a table and screwed another one of those hooks at the top of the frame. Item number 3 ready to go. So item number 4, I honestly just had to take it out of the box and dust it a little bit. For the Astro dog print, I also had to use a brand new frame because, again, I couldn't find any frames that fit my specific measurements at the thrift store, and I just had to get a bunch of new frames at the regular store. The process of framing this piece went very smoothly. I didn't have to do anything special to it, just remove the backboard, remove the paper, put the print inside the window, then put back the paper on top, and then again the backing board, close it all together, and finished. For the Baker Street plate, the process wasn't that straightforward, so I wanted some sort of black framing around the plate so it would stand out against the white wall, but of course there were no frames that fit the exact measurements that I needed, so I pivoted and I decided to use a black board. The problem was figuring out how to attach the plate to the board. I was a little bit inspired by disc plates.
Displays are metal posters that you can hang on the wall by just gluing a piece of magnet to the wall. So what I decided to do was carve little holes in the board so I could glue little magnets inside. And yes, I have a whole set of wood carving tools that I have never used, but I will someday. I just have collected way too many hobbies for now. Off camera, I painted the sides of the board black, and I also touched up the little holes and scratches with black paint, and I also removed what was left of the sticker. Now to the puzzle. I did the entire puzzle off camera. Well, not completely off camera. I started doing it on the last video, which was about my 1 year on YouTube. Go watch it if you haven't. So I did the puzzle on the glazing, which is the acrylic sheet that covers the frame. Then I had to transfer the puzzle from the acrylic sheet to the backboard. Then I added the window on top, and then I placed the acrylic sheet again on top of the art, this time without the protective plastic layer. I also had to sandwich the pieces together with a little bit of tape so they wouldn't fall apart while transferring them to the actual frame. Then of course I removed the tape and I secured everything in place, but it didn't go as planned because the puzzle started falling apart, and that is because the acrylic sheet wouldn't stay completely still on the frame. It would move around, and so everything became a mess. It took me a good half an hour to frame this big boy. I am starting to think they're not all gonna fit in here. Like, there's no way that I can fit this big guy in another 16 pictures on this tiny wall. So I have decided not to include this big one on my gallery wall, and probably some of the others I will also have to say goodbye. But I really want the Westminster Abbey to be in my gallery wall. And I have found a bag full of frames, and I'm starting to get an idea on how to include this picture without taking up so much space. So the jigsaw puzzle came with a small print that you should use as a guide to create the puzzle, and I thought it was the perfect size for this frame that I also found around my parents' home. And when I took the frame apart, I discovered there was already art inside this frame, just upside down. And it took me a long time to convince myself not to use that art, but to use the one that I intended to use, which was the print of the Westminster Abbey. This frame came with its own window, but I didn't like the color. It was a little bit beige, ugly beige, so I decided to trace it onto white paper, cut it out, and use that instead of the one that came with the frame. And that's the only thing that I had to do. It's time for the second squared frame of the project. And finding this one was an odyssey, and I couldn't find the same type of frame that I used for the embroidery. The thing is that I couldn't put my art behind the glass because the glass was at the back, not at the front. There was no depth between the glass and the back of the frame. So I tried to attach the tile directly onto the glass. For that I used command strips, which are just little pieces of Velcro that have glue on both sides, so you attach one Velcro to the art and one Velcro to the wall, in this case one to the tile, one to the glass. Now I have read that you can use command strips on glass. I was a little bit skeptical about it, and it didn't really work out. It came off very easily after testing it for a little bit, so I had to move to plan B, which was removing the glass and the paper behind it and sticking the tile directly to the backboard of the frame. I did test it a little bit and it worked. Now we have the Monet prints. These frames were nasty, even in the back. So I wanted to get the prints out of the frame so I could try to remove any wrinkles that the paper had. But it turns out to get the art out of the frame, I had to basically destroy the frame.
I mean, I still had the chance to put it all back together, like I didn't completely destroy the frame, but I ended up ditching the frame because, as I mentioned before, the paint was chipping off the frame and it looked really bad. So I ended up having to buy 2 more frames in the last minute. Now I tried to fix the water damage of the art by ironing it, first with a cloth in between the art and the iron, and then without it, but the next day the wrinkles were just back. The bigger pieces of art that were already framed, I just had to dust them a little bit. They were not even that dirty. The only problem was with the ones that I told you that were the hand-me-downs from my aunt. So they were taped in the back by the original artist, I believe, and the tape was very old and falling apart in some places, so I just removed the entire tape and put some new tape in place. And that's it. All the pictures are framed and fixed, ready to be hanged.
I am a genius. I have figured out a way to pre-plan my gallery wall without having to stick like 50 sheets of paper on the wall to know where each picture goes. And I had this idea the other day when I was trying to fall asleep.
First, I took photos and measurements of the wall and all the pictures. Then I turned the picture of the wall into a canvas slide. I took a random photo of a ruler and put it on top. We are going to use this ruler to scale down everything. So if my wall is 210 centimeters wide, I sized down the ruler so that my wall appears to be 21 centimeters in my fake ruler. Now I copy and paste the ruler to another slide and I can add the photos of my pictures and size them down to the right scale. For example, if a picture is 45 centimeters wide in real life, then in my fake ruler it has to be 4.5 centimeters wide. Now that it's scaled down, I can copy and paste the pictures to the slide with the wall, and I can move them around and decide how my gallery wall would actually look in real life. This is the final design that I have decided to use for my gallery wall. It is not perfect, but it's better than my previous design, in which I tried to include every single picture and it did not look well. I am not sure how this is going to translate to real life, but this is the best that I can do with what I have. Let's try it. Okay, everything is ready for the big moment. I have 3 different types of hooks. I've got a ruler, pencil, and eraser. I've got all my art already in my plan, but I'm not sure this is gonna work. Let's try. Let's see how long it takes me. It is finally done. It took me longer than I expected. It took me almost 2 hours. No, actually more than 2 hours to hang them all. You cannot see it properly because there's a lamp in the way and also because it's in front of a window, so it's reflecting all the light in the glasses. Now, what do you think? Is it the prettiest gallery wall you've ever seen? Probably not. Is it a bit of an eyesore? Yeah. Does it somehow make the room look smaller and the ceilings look taller? Also, yeah. But overall, I am happy with the end result. I got what I wanted. I got a gallery wall and I got rid of that white boring wall. It is a bit of a statement piece and I will need to get used to it. It came out almost exactly like my canvas sketch. I occasionally messed up the spacing between the pictures because it's just almost impossible to plan where exactly the picture will land after you hang it. But the spacing ended up coming up all right. So that was it. That was me making my first gallery wall. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope we can see each other next time. Goodbye!